So now that we have brought our stuff into Lightroom, I'm going to walk a little bit through some basic edits and then how to export. So I'm here in the Library tab, right? We can make sure that we're in that up here by clicking on Library. If you click on Develop, you'll get one image at a time. You'll have some different controls on the right. Library, we can have a grid. Hit G for grid. You have all of those there. You can also get to that grid view under the View menu, going down to grid, but G for grid. Pretty basic. You can do it. All right. So there's our grid. You can go through the individual images. My grid is telling me some things about them, right? Has the file name, has pixel dimensions, has that they're DNGs. Yours may say something else. I can change what those things are under View, View Options, or Command J. If I go to Grid View, Expanded Cells, Show Grid Extras, and then down here at the bottom, I don't know what all this stuff is. Down here at the bottom, it says Show Header with Labels, and you can choose, so I have file name, crop dimensions, nothing, because otherwise the file name is too long and runs into whatever I would put over there, and then file extension, which is kind of useless. But putting that stuff there makes sense to me. If you don't want it, okay. And now I'm going to tell you to do it. Do it. Go up here to View Options, Grid View, Expanded Cells, and then have it show your file name, crop dimensions, and file extension. Having your file name is really important. Otherwise, dragons come from the sky. All right, cool. So all that is set. If you did that and still don't see it, go down to Grid View, Style, and make sure that it's on Expanded Cells. But cool, there we go. So here they are. Over here on the right, again, making sure I'm in Library, making sure I'm in the Grid View. We have a bunch of stuff. There's metadata is open there that showed us a bunch of things about like what our camera settings were, which is super helpful. What camera we shot it with, what focal length we were at. Right in the beginning, those are decisions that the camera makes. They'll be better for troubleshooting than necessarily evaluating our own particular decisions. Quick Develop is up here at the top, and that is helpful. Let's go down to one of these images. Let's choose this guy. So click on this image. I'm going to hit the space bar, or you could double click to bring it up by itself so you can see it a little bit better. This picture is stupid. But in addition to being stupid, it's a little dark and the color's a little wonky. So I'm going to go over here to Quick Develop, and I'm going to go here to White Balance. Your white balance may just say as shot. If I twiddle it down by hitting that triangle, I have some further adjustments. Don't need those. White balance, I'm just going to go through here. I can go to auto. That looks a lot better. Auto white balance is auto white balance in Lightroom. It is not auto white balance that your camera would have. So the way that it does it is a little bit different, and frankly, Lightroom is better at it. The same thing goes for the tungsten, daylight, whatever. Each of those settings are things that are in Lightroom, and it will process them a little bit differently from what your camera would. We haven't covered white balance. If these words mean nothing, don't worry about it. Just go over there and set it to auto, right? That's affecting only the selected image. And then we can come down here under tone control, twiddle that down if you don't have it already, and we can go here to exposure, and we can make it a little bit brighter. So there's sort of two down arrows, two up arrows, one down arrow, one up arrow. As I mouse over them, it tells me a little bit of what they do. Basically, the two arrows makes a bigger adjustment, and if I go back, one arrow makes a smaller adjustment. So if something is significantly off, as this is, I can go ahead and hit two big arrows, maybe even a couple of small arrows. Oh, nope, too many. And now that exposure looks better to me. I mean, it's still a terrible picture. So there you go. That's a little bit of adjusting. If you want to go through any of the other samples, for example, this white balance is way off. Right, this is incredibly dark. I can't even tell what it is. If you want to try adjusting those, there are some other adjustment bits in here if you want to play around with those. But for the moment, I'm just worrying about that. Now let's go ahead and see how to export something. I'm going to choose, let's see, maybe this image, a stunning image that really is good. So to export it, I can also select multiple images, right? If I go to the grid view, I can say, hey, let's export, 4 images. But for the moment, I'm just going to export this one. So come down here to export. Again, if you don't see that, make sure you were in the library tab. Hit export. And we get a dialog box for exporting. This dialog box I like. Looks like a regular standard dialog box. Doesn't look like some weird, crazy Lightroom dialog box. So export one file. This is going to be pretty straightforward, right? Where is it going to go? What are we going to call it? And then what format? So I guess it's 3 things. So where's it going to go? So we're going to put it in that same folder where our Lightroom catalog file is, similar to the way that we did with our raw files. So if I go to export, I go to specific folder, choose. All right, so I go back to desktop. Where is my catalog? There it is. Hello, friend. Open that up. Now I'm going to make a new folder inside there. And remember how we named our raw folder. So similarly, BLF 2020 PH152. Instead of raw, I'm going to call it export. And hit choose. So now we have a folder that has our Lightroom catalog in it, a subfolder that has all of our raw material images, and then a second folder that has everything that we have exported. So anything we've edited, anything we're sort of spitting out to give to a client, turn into a professor, send to our grandmother, like any of that stuff goes into that export folder. So cool, put in subfolder. We will often put these in a subfolder and it will be called like assignment 1, assignment 2, something else, right? You usually want to give that a name that has to do, if I'm doing a shoot for a client, the client's name and the date that I gave it to them, right? Because what's going to happen when the client calls me, they're going to say, hey, you did a shoot on this and such a date, you gave me these files, they're okay, but I want the ones you sent me before, right? Like the previous edit looked better, send me those again. Or, hey, you sent me these files and my intern, which is code for me, but I don't want to admit it, totally deleted them. Can you send them again? Right? And I can just go to this folder, grab them, email them, don't have to export them, don't have to do any other weird stuff. I'm going to put them in a subfolder called demo. Demo image export, sure, why not? Rename, right? So I want to rename them. The reason that I want to rename them is that I'm turning something in for homework, right? So I'm going to rename them with whatever I have in that homework, right? So my assignment will probably have like, Farwell, Brad, assignment 01, something. So if that's what I was doing, I would want to rename them. If I'm just sending them to a client, I don't want to rename them. Why not? Well, I went to all this trouble to give them a particular name, and I want that name to sort of travel with the file so that if they call me up and they're like, hey, can you send me that file again? And I'm like, which one? And they're like, the one with the green thing in the corner and the bird. That doesn't help me. So having a name in there with it that I can sort of trace back is good. For turning stuff in, we're going to want to rename it. So renaming, When I click on this, there's a bunch of options, right? You'll see that there are options similar to our import naming, right? And in fact, our import naming is right there. Just like that, we could create a preset that would be a preset for exporting stuff. And let's go ahead and do that. In fact, here, let's do it as if this were an assignment. So okay, so Farwell Brad, blah, 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 assignment 2. I'm putting it in a subfolder that's assignment 2. This is not actually assignment 2, just demoing stuff here. Custom text, Farwell Brad, assignment 2. That's great. Let's go ahead and make a preset. So this preset has a bunch of custom text, right? There's a little box in there that says custom text. Where did that come from? I don't know. Maybe I don't have it. Just backspace that out. Come down here to custom text and hit insert. So custom text is basically saying, hey, you can enter whatever text you want. On our import naming, it's going to be basically the same every single time. So we just type that text in. In our export naming, when I go to assignment 3, right, it's going to be a different name going out. If I make a shot in this class that I think is great and I want to send it to my cousin and I want to name it, don't do it, funny lols picture, right? I can put that in here. So I just want to put in custom text so that I can enter that text as I go to export it. But I do want to have after that a sequence number. I'm going to put in a, I don't know, 2-digit sequence, 3-digit sequence. Most of the time we're not going to be exporting more than 99 pictures for any given assignment, so 2-digit sequence is probably okay. I'm going to go up to the preset and say save current settings as a new preset. PH152 export naming. Create, awesome, hit done. So now my custom text is whatever it is that I want to put in here, and it will automatically be followed by a dash and a sequence number. Just like bring stuff in, we can choose a start number. So if I started at number 151, my first file that I export will be 151, and if I had selected 4 files, it would be 151, 152, 153, 154. Start number 1 is fine. Cool, so file renaming, that's important. Where the files are going, super important. Lightroom will remember this the next time I do it, so that's fine. File settings, right? So file settings, image format, original. Most of the time, I'm exporting a JPEG. All right, I'm exporting a JPEG because it is a smaller file. It's easily read by any computer program. I can send it to my grandma, she gets it. I can send it to my mom, she gets it. I can send it to an editor, they get it. I can put it on a website, like universally readable. If I'm sending something for print, I'll send something else, but for the moment, JPEG, that's fine. Goodness, excuse me. Color space, sRGB, just do it. We'll talk about it later. Quality. Quality is how much compression is applied to that file as it goes out the door, makes for a smaller file size and a slightly lower image quality. You won't really notice anything on your screen. I have it right now at 85. I can bring it up to 100. File size will be a little bit bigger. Image quality will be a little bit better. For the moment, let's put it at 100 and not worry about it. Image sizing, resize to fit. So on the handout, I think I have 1600 pixels. Look at the assignment descriptions. Each assignment description will tell you what the file size should be. I want it to be, in this case, I'm putting it at 2400 pixels. You should look at the assignment description for whatever you're exporting and do that. If you're exporting a bunch of things to email to somebody, maybe make it smaller. There you go. So resize to fit, we have a bunch of options here: width and height, dimensions, long edge, short edge, megapixels, and percentage. We are almost always using long edge. That means if I have a picture that is a landscape and I have a picture that is a portrait orientation, the portrait orientation, that long edge, i.e. the height, will be whatever I specify, 2400 pixels. And the landscape one, the long edge, the width, will be 2400 pixels, so that all those images, no matter what is going on, they will be roughly the same size. So long edge, 2400, make sure this is set to pixels. 2400 inches is very, very big. So 2400 pixels, don't enlarge. If you had a really tiny, small JPEG and we're exporting it, maybe you would need to worry about this. We don't need to worry about it for this, so you can ignore that. Resolution doesn't really matter. This seems like a crazy thing to say, but it's true. We'll talk about it later. We'll leave it at whatever it is, 72 pixels per inch is fine. So output sharpening, I think this is the last thing, sharpen for screen amount standard. So again, I'm not exporting this to print. I'm simply exporting this to look at on a computer. So I will have it add a little bit of sharpening to it on the way out the door. Because I'm shrinking it down, it gets a little bit fuzzier, and tweaking that sharpening a little bit will make my image slightly crisper. Standard amount is fine. And I think that looking over here at the handout, that is it. So again, exporting it to my specific location, to that export folder, renaming it with a preset that I just made so I don't have to do it a second time. Enter that text, right? It gives you a little sample of what the name will be. Make sure you have the right start number in there. Set it to whatever I'm asking for, in this case a JPEG. Set the quality high, right? If you set it to 85, that would probably be fine. If you set it to 5, that would be bad. Color space, sRGB, resize to fit long edge, 2400 pixels. Sharpen for screen, standard amount. And now you can go ahead and hit export. So it will export that file. It will be where we told it to be. If I go ahead, select 3 more images and hit export, it keeps all those settings that I just had. So if I were going now to assignment 3, I would need to change some things. But if I'm exporting some more stuff for this hypothetical assignment 2, all I would need to do is change my start number so that it starts with number 2, hit export, and we should be good to go. Let's go double check where they are. All right, Finder, desktop. There's my lovely Lightroom catalog. Open it up. There's that export folder, my raw folder. If I look in the raw folder, right, there's all of those pretty DNGs. If I look in my export folder, here are these files that I just exported, and they are numbered as we wanted, 1, 2, 3, and number 4. So if that did not work out, walk yourself back through the steps, see if you can figure out where you went wrong, holler at me, but you should now be able to, you should have made your Lightroom catalog that we're going to use for the entire semester. You should be able to import images in from your camera, from a hard drive, have them be put in the right place, your raw folder, have them be renamed on import to a logical name that makes sense, and you should be able then also to export those files back out. So, awesome. Good job.